do is sell the meals ahead of time, so that way you have a count, and you know.
Yeah, if people are coming, do you want to eat?
You know, the last one they had, I spent $21 on food myself.
Yeah, to have them buy tickets for your meal ahead of time, you know, and
We
then,
just need to make sure they know food will be available. 'Cause some of these folks show up and they've already eaten.
Yeah. So which one are we removing? Number 3, right?
You're removing number, yes. No,
No?
no, it's already been removed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's DFA, that's the million we're taking, and then that NMFA. Because they're wanting us to, why is MFA removed and DFA wouldn't?
DFA is a $1 million grant,
Yeah,
and that one's going directly.
and the other ones are grown.
Yeah, the other ones are grown, and that's one, you know, they're the ones that have, because it has that loan component, we removed it because.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Anytime we issue debt,
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Village of Ruidoso special meeting. It is June 29th, 2022. It's 1 p.m. If you would join me in standing for a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, diggity dog. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I hope that if you wanted to speak, you signed up. Roll call, Ron.
Mayor Crawford,
Here.
Councillor Salas,
Here.
Councillor Letterman,
Here.
Councillor Eby, Councillor Hooker,
here.
Councillor Coughlin.
Here.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and get into our agenda items. We have 5 today. Item number 1 is discussion and possible action on ratification of multi-award of ITB number 2022-007B to Fiesta Mobile Homes LLC and AAA Homes Odessa LLC DBA A1 Homes for modular and manufactured homes. Yes, ma'am. This is like your second time, isn't it?
It
In
is.
the hot seat by yourself?
Yep.
All right, well, we're
You're used to
expecting
it
a
now.
lot out of you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Mayor and Council. We issued a solicitation for invitation to bid for modular and mobile home housing. It's to benefit to rehome the victims of the fire and for workforce housing. So we issued the solicitation and we advertised in 4 newspapers. 12 contractors drew down. We held a non-mandatory pre-bid conference, and 4 contractors showed up for that, and that was Fiesta, Titan Custom Containers, and AAA Homes Odessa. 4 contractors submitted the acknowledgement of receipt with their intent to bid. We received 5 bids from 5 different companies, and after reviewing, we would like to select the 2 lowest bidders, because this is a multi-award, so we are selecting AAA Homes Odessa LLC, DBA A1 Homes, and Fiesta Mobile Homes LLC. So,
Any questions?
we're requesting to approve the ratification to multi-award to Fiesta Mobile Homes LLC and AAA Homes Odessa A1 Mobile Homes for the modular and manufactured homes.
What were the 3 addendum reasons?
We issued 3 addendums. There was some clarifications, some questions regarding the specifications that we put out there.
So on one was specs?
Yeah, and then on the second one, we issued the pre-conference addenda, and everyone who signed in. There was a couple more questions on that one. And we also changed, we had a bid bond requirement, and we allowed the firms to provide cashier's checks in lieu of the bid bond, so we put that into the specifications as well.
Okay.
On the checklist, under description, it says single wide. Are these all single wide units?
These are all single wide.
Oh, okay, I thought they were bigger than that.
Yeah.
Mayor, Counselor, the ones that we've selected are single wides, but there are double wide options.
Okay,
So in the future, if we want to look at a different project and pick a double wide, there are some double wide options.
well, and some of those, it's, 15 feet, 6 inches in width, and that, to me, is more than a single wide. I'm used to single wide being
Yeah, they're,
like 8 feet, and then you
Yeah,
combine them
and
together.
12 the
Yeah.
max, so.
and what we had done, several were on a little, it wasn't even a committee, just reviewed the layout and then looked at all the different sizes because they were not totally uniform from every manufacturer of how they would best fit on the lot. And so we did make sure that we had three bedrooms
Yes.
or four, three?
The 70 footers were 3, but there's some of the smaller ones that are also 3.
Three. And then we have 2 bedrooms. I don't think we had any 1 bedrooms.
No.
And we went off of the guidance of the Planning and Zoning Committee. They had some suggestions on this. And so we picked the 2 different manufacturers, really on price and also on availability, but also how they would also fit that one particular lot.
And quality.
And
the
quality.
R value also,
What's that?
the R value.
Yep. We looked at insulation values and all that stuff too. Some of them were much better, especially the Karsten homes were really quality built.
Well, I'll say, to go through all that and the amount of time you guys took to do it is amazing.
Well, these guys, as soon as we started down this road, they put out RFP immediately.
Right.
There was no grass growing anytime on this, and so we got those in and then sat down and just reviewed everything, and then there were some follow-up questions. These guys did a real good job.
Mayor, if you would entertain it, we did prepare a presentation before any.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize.
This one's just listed as a ratification, and the previous resolution, the council did authorize us the authority to move forward. So we have moved forward with the award of this. And we've prepared a whole presentation that gives you an update of where we're at on the whole project.
Okay.
Do you need a motion
No.
to ratify?
Oh, you want to go ahead and ratify it now?
Yes, after
Okay.
that, and then we'll get into the presentation just to solidify that
Okay.
process.
Okay.
Yes, we need a motion.
I move that we ratify for the multiple award of ITB number 2022-007B to Fiesta Mobile Homes LLC and AAA Homes Odessa LLC, DBA A1 Homes for modular and manufactured homes.
Second.
Any final discussion?
I have a question before we do. I know we've spoken about, these homes are going to be used for a lot of different locations. But the ones that we're immediately working on next to the Dollar General, we talked about those being available only for rentals. Those would not be sold.
Correct.
And I think everybody here in administration and on the council currently agrees with that. Is there any way that we can protect that and make sure that going into the future, that it remains that way so that somebody else doesn't come down 10 years from now and say, well, you know what, we can make a killing selling off these homes, and that wasn't the intended purpose of this.
Manager?
Yes, Mayor, there's what's called a LURA that we can place on it. It's a form of a lien,
Okay?
and that protects it for future use.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that we are considering on this property and also on the Meacham property, the 603 Meacham, so that those are held in trust with our housing trust and in accordance with the Affordable Housing Act in perpetuity, so that we hold them as long-term rentals.
Perfect. Thank you.
My question is, ITB, does that mean in the back?
Invitation to bid.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, roll call, Ron.
Counselor Letterman?
Aye.
Counselor Eby?
Aye.
Counselor Salas?
Aye.
Counselor Hooker?
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would recommend that we go ahead and go through item number 2 and then do the presentation
Okay,
before we move on the DFA grant.
okay. So we'll go through item number 2 is discussion and possible action on ratification of award of RFP number 2022-010P to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Enchanted Lands, Realtors for Property Management Services, and to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Yes, we issued an RFP for the property management services. We're looking to hire a company to be our property manager for all future properties that are owned by us for rental. And we put the solicitation out there. We received one response. That was from Berkshire Hathaway. And we did review, the evaluation committee reviewed the proposal and deemed them to be responsible and fit to take care of this, do the property management for this for the
Okay.
village.
Any questions? Anybody know who we're talking about?
Yeah.
No way.
Mayor, for a point of disclosure, I'd like to say that I use Berkshire Hathaway to manage my rental properties, and Kylie's my daughter. So I'll be abstaining from the vote.
I
Okay.
don't see a problem with that.
I don't either, but just to be,
I appreciate that,
Just for
but I mean,
perceptions.
like you said earlier, we all worked on this and everything. I'd like you to participate in the vote that we're moving
even when
forward.
it's Boys and Girls Club stuff, I always
Yeah, I
just
understand that.
abstain
I mean,
because
you're
and
employed
I've
by them.
I've gotten, from the municipal league, I've gotten opinions that as long as I'm not benefiting directly, there's not a
Right.
conflict, but it's also perception. And I think that,
What does the municipal league know?
well, I know.
We're in Ruidoso, so
But I feel confident that my abstention will not affect things.
I appreciate that,
Especially
Tim,
since there's only
but
one
I think
bidder.
you should vote, yeah.
Yeah.
But my question is, which I failed to read the RFP, are these homes going to be pet-friendly?
Yet to be determined.
Too, and I guess that's what it is. We're still working on the policy of you know, what are the parameters of the rental occupation? How is it distributed to the fire victims first? And one thing that I thought when I lived in apartments here, Camelot, we had a little storage closet. So are we going to provide a small storage building? So those are things that just popped up as I was reading all this.
Mayor, Counselor, you know, we have been in contract negotiations, and some of those issues are coming up and being addressed. When it comes to the pet-friendly, what we'll be doing is bringing back an administrative reg that we're working on that talks about a lot of those type of issues. Right now, when we talk about pet-friendly, you know, right now we're considering, you know, what size of pet, if they do have a pet, is it going to be a yard, how they maintain that
Right.
area, those type of things. But all that will be discussed in the contract negotiations. When it comes to the actual rental of the properties, the first priority is going to be to try to get the 14 families that have been identified. There's actually 21 families that are displaced, but 14 of the 21 didn't have insurance and don't have a place to go. They are renting. So that'll be the first priority, and trying to get them qualified either for FEMA disaster assistance or other type of subsidies to help them, you know, get in and pay the rents that would be due at that time. If, once that's exhausted, then we'll make it available to the general public at 140% LMI.
Okay.
And those are some of the conditions that we're putting in the document.
Okay.
And the sheds, the storage, you know, and the development part of that, that's one of the things that we're considering as well.
Right. I mean, you know, put the kids' spots in for the winter and stuff there. It don't have to be very big, but that was just the question that came up.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mayor, in part of the RFP process, there was a disclosure, and, you know, the perception issue that Councilor Coffin brought up was disclosed by the respondent, so we did consider it responsive.
Okay.
And then we're still gonna have the, you know, when we're coming to the exterior, there's still some things we've got to
Still working out all that.
Like what kind of fencing, if we're gonna have it, and all those kind of things. But you're right, you have a good point about the storage. So, but we'll have to move through that. Anything else? Ron, you want to, do we ever get a motion?
Not yet.
I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the ratification of award of RFP number 2022-010P to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Enchanted Lands Realtors for property management services and to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second.
Any final discussion? Roll call, Ron.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby, Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Abstain,
Even after that talking?
even after that.
Thank you.
Thank you, good job.
See, it didn't
Mayor,
make a difference anyways.
And then I just want to personally thank Andrea for all her hard work. This was an expedited process, and she worked diligently with her other workload. She jumped in and got this done, so thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
And also, Ross, raise your hands. Does everybody recognize Ross? I'm sorry if does everybody
I haven't
know?
met him yet.
That's
so.
our new
AC.
AC, Assistant Chief at the Fire Department. So he was in town, been in town about 2 weeks now? Second week, okay. All right, we're glad to have you, but that's who he is.
Welcome
Have you
aboard.
found a place to live yet? Well, we happen to know some places now.
Yeah,
Be a couple of months.
Well, you're from San Angelo, right?
yes. Okay, so now you want to go into it?
Yes, Mayor, before we take on the next action item, as part of that, I just wanted to go through where we're at. It ties into the funding availability and whatnot, but Samantha, if you want to go over this, this plan here actually takes the size of the units back into consideration. The Planning and Zoning Board asked us to, maximize the two bedrooms as opposed to the single bedrooms. So we have incorporated those thoughts into there. They had originally said no less than 17 units, and we were able to achieve 18 out of this layout. We did provide for the drainage in here and then the parking lot spaces that they were requesting in the whole RFP. This site plan also shows that the utilities, both water and wastewater, are already laid out. The drainage has been completed, but this is basically what the site plan is going to look like. And each space does, even without the dedicated parking lot, the parking spaces does meet the code. So you want to go to the next. On this, Mayor, going back and under consideration, what you have today is going to be that DFA grant of $1 million. The New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority, MFA, we didn't put the NM before it, but is entertaining a grant loan with us of $400,000. And in that document, it actually establishes that these properties can be up to 140% LMI. They're the authority that is charged with making that type of a determination with the Affordable Housing Act and the Housing Trust Act. So that document, before the village council entertains any type of debt, we feel that, not just feel, but in statute, it requires that bond council opine on that debt and make sure that we have the authority to do that.
Did you say Opine?
Opine, opinion, opine.
Somebody's been looking in there.
Yeah.
Big words.
So they are currently consulting with us, and they're recommending that a bond ordinance be issued on that debt. That is over a 25-year period that would be paid back, and it would only be, the rent that's collected that would go back. If we were to recover from FEMA or any other source these funds, then we would pay that back. But that shows that the local funds, Mayor and Council, a month ago, you gave us the authority to move $1 million out of the Housing Trust Fund and into the Enterprise Fund to establish it. The DFA document that you're going to be considering today, DFA is our financial oversight as well, and they are giving this to establish a Housing Enterprise Fund. So they are acknowledging our authority to create enterprise funds and to to do that. And this document does demonstrate that they're participating in it, not just acknowledging it. When we start to go through, Adam has already gone through the material list and sourced the prices that we have here, and he's getting ready to actually make a purchase of all the materials from the water and wastewater, including fire hydrants, manholes, meters, and those things, so that when we're ready to move into construction, we will be considering through a CES or a state contract, awarding the construction phase of it. But we'll be writing the specs or asking them to bid on those price agreements with us supplying the material, so that we don't slow the process down. We're going to be purchasing the materials ourselves. So that part of it, the utilities, as far as water and wastewater, all that material, the design has been complete. And then we move it into the all-weather roads. We did add to this part of it, and we put $100,000 if we want to blacktop it. When you look at the grindstone project that was just complete, our streets department was able to put in the in-kind services of right about $100,000 to pave that. So we feel we may be able to come back in and blacktop it. We've added in some allocation for the decks. The Planning and Zoning Board did ask us to put it on a permanent foundation, so we're considering a pier foundation, and we put in an allocation for $15,000. That may be a little high. We're speculating it's going to be a little bit high. The electrical is currently under peer review. The electrical from P&M has been completed, and it should be approved by this afternoon, I believe.
It'll all be underground, right?
Yes, we're looking at all underground. Forestry compliance should be starting hopefully mid next week to early the following week. And then the property purchase and the appraisal, all that has been completed. When you look at the factors, what we do with this spreadsheet is we take the actual mobile homes, we back out that cost, and then we determine the development cost right about, that's the last figure in the right-hand bottom corner, the $73,000 per unit is where we're coming up with a development cost. So we have another sheet that I've showed you before. It's the calculator, and that calculator, we carry over that development cost into the other spreadsheet and then put the replacement cost of the units in there, and that's how we base the rent with the maintenance, operation, repair, replacement, those factors that go into operating it. And then over a 20-year period, we calculate that rent. So it is a true enterprise fund where all the cost of maintenance, operation, repair, replacement, purchase of the homes and the property is built into that rental cost that we'll be charging the tenants on a 20-year basis.
Can you go back over the sources and uses of funds? The 220, is everybody familiar with where we got the 220?
I forgot.
The 220, there was the Federal Bank of Dallas, the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority said they wanted to have a call. We set up a conference call, and then they introduced me to this gentleman with the Federal Bank of Dallas. And I had to do a presentation to him on what we're trying to accomplish, what we're addressing, both with the victims of the fire and the 40% LMI. And then, the call kind of ended, and a couple of weeks later, he called me back and said, we're giving you $200,000, and there's two board members that are on our oversight board that, I guess one knew the mayor. The mayor talked to him about the project, and then the other one was a neighbor of Frank Potter and Elizabeth. And both of them did started off at a lower amount, and then at the board meeting, they actually increased it, and they ended up giving us $200,000. It's they contacted us, right, Judy, and they just said, no strings attached, send us your account number, and we're sending you $200,000.
Wow,
And
that's really great.
Yep. And then in the same process, we've been talking to P&M, trying to get them to expedite the process. They move very rapidly on their design. We've seen on some of our other projects, it's taking a considerable amount of time. But P&M, their designers have stepped up, and they're moving forward very quickly on this as well. But in addition to that, we've been talking to Bruce Ashburn about the project, and then Friday night, he presented us with a $20,000 grant from P&M. So
Great.
that's where the $220,000 came from. The legislative appropriation, again, that goes back to, this past session and Zach Cook and Senator Burt putting in money into that fund. So that was the $980,000, that's where that's coming from. So right now, the total funds available is right about $3.6 million. And right now, as it stands with the costs that we've built in, with some, leeway in there. So far, everything that we have done has came in below the amounts that we placed in there as placeholders, and we're at 2.9 million. So we got some room to work.
Great, that's really good.
Tim, I know we were talking about August as being a goal. Is that still somewhat reasonable?
Yes, and we can move on to the next slide.
Great.
The planning commission approval on the site plan and the conditional use permit, these are the conditions that they placed on it. Most of these we have worked through. We have increased the opportunity on the green space by, the size of what we're considering on the property, and then tying it to the Lynx Trail as well. So we have met all the conditions that were placed on it by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Do you have a question, Rafa?
Yeah, I did. Going back to the decks, are they going to be covered or just open deck attached?
Right now, we've set aside, I believe it was 15,000 for the decks.
Right.
We're looking at a 10 by 15 deck, and it would be a covered deck.
Okay.
And, that's just, Dave Myers and the building department put together a spec and priced it. We still need to bid that out.
Okay.
We'll either bid it out or we'll enter into a CS contract.
I mean, I would recommend it
deck.
with all the weather that we have and stuff, so.
Yeah. The timelines, the zoning cert was approved on June 10th. The conceptual plan was also approved with conditions on June 10th. Since then, we have gone through July 1st was the partial complete. What's that?
That's the date that we're hoping to be completely done with the design.
Oh, yeah, with the design. Water was actually complete as of Monday from the design. Adam has gone and actually developed a materials list and is in the process of acquisition. And same thing with wastewater. The drainage was also completed. There was a leach line coming off of the Dollar General. So that leach line and the drainage is being addressed on site. The electrical plan was completed yesterday and is under peer review today, and it should be completed by this afternoon. The pier and foundation plan is under review. Dave Myers again went and developed the pier and foundation plan. We've sent it in and to Zeke, and then Zeke with White Sands is getting that spec'd as well. The decks have been spec'd. The skirting, there's been several different options that have been submitted to us. The pricing for that is still being developed, and that's another area that we'll have to make some selections. The paint charts have been set to us, so we just have to pick the various paints for it. One of the things that, I do want to disclose on the bid is when we look at AAA, they didn't include the washer dryer, so we'll have to go back and purchase washer dryers for those units. The other ones do come with washer dryers. And then the AAA comes with a basic gray and white, I believe, paint on the exterior. So if we want to paint them, we'll have to, hire a contractor and change those colors so that they don't just look all the same.
Yeah, we don't want to look like some kind of army barracks, but it was, A1 or AAA was substantially lower than everyone else. I mean, they really gave us a great price.
Yeah.
As long as the product is good.
Yeah.
The site staking, all the surveying has been complete. They're trying out there to stake the property. Once the property's staked, then Dick will move in and start the tree and stump removal and forest compliance. And that should be happening sometime either mid to late next week or the week after. From there, we intend to continue to move forward on starting to place the mobile homes and have the whole site plan complete by August 1st. Start placing the mobile homes. Once we have the mobile homes in there, then we'll go back and we'll bring in the material for an all-weather road, and then consider at some point in time the development of paving those roads.
Yeah.
Back up to the skirting, when do we expect to have pricing in on that skirting? What was the allowance that we had in there for that?
They had, I can't remember, if we upgrade, if we do a different skirting, they give us a discount of what's in the bid.
Uh-huh.
But some of the prices are all over the place, just depending on what we go on, up to 3,000 or whatnot. So we didn't put an allowance per se in there, Mayor, but we do have room to play with if we decide to upgrade. I think we need to upgrade and have something that is, aesthetically pleasing than just making it look like a mobile home. So I'd recommend that we either do, some type of rock or split face brick or something that's going to make it look more attractive.
As long as it's not El Chizio.
In the bid, the only one that's specified is A1, and they put, smart panel would be $4,000 and metal skirting would be $5,000, but both of them include vinyl skirting.
Yeah, they all include the vinyl, and those are just options, and we have received other options since.
Can I speak on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so vinyl was included for both bidders. There was an upgrade of 3,000 for one type of skirting and an upgrade of 6,000 for another. We could also do a stem wall.
Yeah.
upgrade.
And Mayor, we may consider just having a local contractor go in there and do it as opposed to using them. And if we do that, they'll back out the cost of the vinyl. That's what they've expressed. So,
Is that vinyl paintable?
I don't know.
is the vinyl what?
Paintable?
It's like, I wouldn't recommend going with, it's like
I don't think it can be painted.
You touch it, it scratches off.
And the only problem I have with vinyl is
Always warps.
people get out there with weed whackers to trim around it, and shortly they knock holes in it.
Quick, yeah.
Well, in high winds, the vinyl tends to pop out, so.
Yeah.
So it needs to
It's
be
just a
something.
piece of plastic like that then,
Starts to bow.
Exactly. No,
It would be nice to have something nice.
Okay.
Do we have, is that the last?
Yes, that was the last slide.
So that basically gives you an update of where we're at and the process. that we're
Okay,
going through.
a question, if you could go to the site plan, because the drainage coming out of, on the north end of General Dollar
Sorry.
goes right there to, I don't know what lot that is. It's, of course,
14?
it's south of the lot, and they'll go right into that, is it 14 or 12? Yeah, we're considering that re-diverting or the placement of,
It is gonna go right, through that parking lot area. The south end of that parking lot was the area that was dedicated for the drainage easement.
right,
And so what we did, when they asked us to incorporate the parking lot in, we incorporated the parking lot and that drainage easement into the same area.
okay.
So the drainage will go right down the middle of that parking lot.
Yes,
what,
to the
But
south
right
of
now, on Dollar General, the north side up on top
Right.
of, that's where they have their drainage of
Right.
their whole parking lot
Just
going
dumps
down.
right out there.
Yeah, and it's just open rock,
Yeah.
and so as long as it's diverted to that parking lot and then towards the golf course,
Yeah, when you actually look at it on the plat, it actually comes out like right there where the south part of the parking lot's at.
right,
Yeah.
How was that ever approved for Dollar General?
so,
Dump your drainage into another property?
what,
They
so,
have a drainage easement.
Oh, really? Okay.
so with Dollar General being there, and then we have two lots, does those lots butt up against the wall for Dollar General?
There'll be an easement there. There's a
Okay.
setback.
Okay.
How far is it?
10 foot.
10
Yeah.
foot.
foot setback, yeah.
Okay.
And the wall's pretty tall.
Yeah,
you
it
know.
is.
That's why we wanted to make sure we had plenty of room. 'Cause instead of just cramming them, we wanted to have, what do you call it? Buffers, little areas where you could feel like more of a neighborhood home than a barracks.
Will there be some type of restriction on that parking lot, so it's guest parking only?
That's the intent.
Okay, because I could see people having too many cars to fit the 2 spots they have on their lot, and then filling up the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's where I was gonna park to go walk the links. I'm just kidding, I walk from my house.
But those are things that'll be addressed in the agreements. And, it's about parking, the dogs, smoking, all the different kinds of things.
Yeah, and I think the intent of that, Mayor, is that if people do have like a family gathering or whatnot, they'll notify the tenants that they have to have them go park inside the parking lot and then walk to the house.
Right.
What about having multiple families live in the trailers? I mean, like,
We discussed the possibility, but again, we haven't really addressed it like a 3-bedroom having 2 single people or 3 single people. Is that what you're saying?
We'll address that
Yeah.
within the lease agreements.
yeah, because you can see it all over town now.
The subletting.
Well, they won't be any subletting.
Just, and basically what I'm talking about, I get in and then my family all moves
So
in.
we'll have restrictions on, your name should have to be on the lease.
It's gonna be
to live there.
income-based, so.
Yeah.
And it's important that we make this right and operate it right and looks right. And
Any adults living in the property should be on the lease. Because otherwise you run into legal issues.
My sister rents at Ladera, and they give a 2-week stay for guests. I mean, her grandson came to visit, he's here for the whole summer, so he stays there 2 weeks, goes to my daughter's house and stays there 2 weeks, that goes back. I mean, there's ways to get around it, but that's how I saw.
Well, I wasn't really
Oh, they're
even
there.
talking about your grandkids. I was talking
No,
about
yeah.
multiple families
Right.
moving in, because
We
you
thought you were talking
see
about the
that.
Sanchos.
Yeah.
My last question, Tim, is on the highway department. When can we start destruction on the curbing and getting access to that?
Right now, we got an emergency access permit, and the actual property, the permit that was issued on the Dollar General was a road easement
Oh, okay.
agreement. So until we acquire additional property or look at, other opportunities that may exist, when you look at the property that's laid out, it's also, giving an opportunity to potentially tie into Bill. We haven't had that conversation, Bill Pippin's
Right.
property, but we are working with him on the utility easement. His transformers sit right on his property within 10 feet, and the only way that they can access those transformers is through our property. So we're in the process of an easement agreement to where we can actually tie our property onto those transformers and not have to, have additional transformers over there. So it works with us and with him. So, that's one of the conversations we're also gonna have, is you look at the drive that he has, it goes pretty steep into his property, but it also has a little potential of developing an entrance into ours as well. So
Okay.
those are just future options that we may, develop some options around as we move forward.
So that's the link side.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And we haven't discussed what type of fence just yet or settled on one.
Yeah. Okay.
And, access from there to the links and to that walkway anyway.
Yeah, for the animals to protrude into.
I could see those being preferred properties, because you got nobody behind you and a nice view
Yep.
going out to the east.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really nice and trying to keep as many trees.
Yeah,
you can.
that's another plus.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, in that case, speaking about trees, because I just cleaned out my gutters over the weekend, will these homes have gutters on them?
I don't believe so.
Well, they're pitched roofs, but I don't know of the gutters.
Okay, that's something that might be worth considering. 'Cause especially if it's pitched towards the doors, it's dripping out and you're walking out through a waterfall.
Yep.
And it helps protect the siding depending upon what type of siding is on these.
In the decking.
Yeah,
I think the Fiestas actually had a gable coming out on the front entrances, if I wasn't mistaken.
Had a 12-inch eve.
On the
Yeah, they had
Karstens,
Yeah, the eaves.
yeah, it's pitched, gabled out, and then it has one, out the front.
I'm excited.
Okay, just need a motion.
I move that we accept the grant agreement number ZF3512-Redoso with the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, LGD, for creating a housing enterprise fund in the amount of $1 million.
Second.
Any final discussion?
We didn't
Roll
have-
call, Ron.
We didn't have any discussion on it. We didn't have any discussion.
No, we were,
it's all tied together.
Yeah, it's all tied together.
Yeah.
No, that presentation was for the first two, and then
yep.
I know, as I was reading, I
I
was like, oh,
I asked
what
for
am I
motion
doing?
before I read it, but you did a great job of it.
Thank you.
Counselor Lutterman,
Aye.
Counselor Hooker,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
I,
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you.
and I think we've already talked a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
about this, so if people are thinking we're just approving things without talking about it, we've already discussed this stuff.
Well, it was just listed on the,
And Mayor, specifically, I just want to highlight that, Department of Finance Administration, Local Government Division is our financial, our fiduciary oversight.
on our budgeting.
They are granting us $1 million for this intended purpose of creating a housing enterprise fund.
That's great.
And this is Debbie Romero's department, and then Donnie Quintana, which all of y'all know.
Yeah, and some of the discretion did come down from the governor as well
Yes.
on this.
Okay, item number 4, discussion and possible action on grant agreement with the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for the New Mexico Appropriation Funds through Junior Bill 22-ZG9086 in the amount of $230,000. And who's going to be discussing that one?
I will, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
On this, working through the legislative session, originally, the junior bill was line item vetoed by the governor. They had a special session and came back and they reawarded the $230,000 for facade improvements for the Midtown District. What we're recommending under this, Mayor, is that, within that Midtown District, that we utilize our tool. When you get to some of the language that we're going back and forth with DFA, Donnie Quintana again, and Carmen, I believe, Ron, is who we're working with. We have to be able to demonstrate that we're not violating the Anti-Donation Act. And there's 3 different acts that we have, tools in our toolbox as a local government that allows us to participate with private projects without violating it with the state constitution. When we looked at the CARES money that we distributed, that didn't apply because it was federal money coming down. The anti-donation is strictly state statute within our constitution, and it applies to state dollars and it applies to these dollars. So the 3 acts is the Affordable Housing Act, the Local Economic Development Act, and the Metropolitan Redevelopment Act. So as you recall, a couple of years ago, we went through, or a year ago, I can't remember with all the different timeframes, but went through a process of designating a metropolitan redevelopment zone. And it went from the Y to the circle. And within that, the Midtown District was identified. So we got $230,000 coming down to us that we'll be able to put a grant process in place, entertain proposals from the business owners within that district on how they're going to improve their facades. And then with the metropolitan redevelopment zone that we have adopted, we would have to put a committee in place that would help us develop that criteria, put out an invitation for bid for grants, and then have the business owners submit to us their proposals on how they're going to, do those facade improvements, and then we would make awards to those individuals. So this grant is accepting, this agreement here is accepting that 230,000, and then we have to put that process in place.
So Tim, are you anticipating some type of a match for the businesses?
We haven't established any of that kind of criteria. We can, and then as we develop the criteria, the policy, we can bring it back to the governing body for approval.
I'm just thinking a match helps stretch the dollars even further
Yeah, and,
instead of 100%.
yeah, but I don't want to eliminate some of those that might be totally strapped down there.
Exactly.
But we're putting together a little committee, not made up of RMA or whatever, to do some reviews on the applications to help the application choice process, so.
And Mayor, just for transparency on that comment, we're not involving RMA in the process because several of their board members,
Businesses.
they're business owners.
Right.
And we want to make sure that they do have an opportunity to apply.
Yeah.
Well, I can see some conflicts there because a lot of the majority of the businesses don't own their buildings. So then you've got to get the building owner to approve, if not participate in it, or something happening along there.
So is this committee going to figure out how much to give to that person? Is
Well-
it like 20,000? You
Well,
can't give any
I
more
don't think that we're having, it's not all fully discussed, but I would think that each business that was applying would have a bid or have an estimate of what they were wanting to do. And then hopefully, that would give us more information to pick that. And I say we, I'm not planning on being on that committee.
Yeah.
To pick that particular one and do just like what we did with the CARES Act money that we received back for the businesses that applied.
Yeah.
And we were able to work with are the ones that were funded.
And Mayor, that's, there again, my intent is, once you get this grant agreement approved, we're recommending the mayor appoint that committee at the next meeting. We would meet with the committee and develop the criteria similar to how we did with the CARES.
Yeah.
We would bring those processes back to the council for approval, and then we would let the RFP
Yeah.
or RFB, invitation for bid.
Okay? So everybody got it? Okay.
It will definitely help the Midtown area.
And 230,
It's not a lot of money.
no, but it will go, but it originally came down, and Tim worked real hard on getting some of the language identified and changed, because it had originally identified it as the murals, to
Yes.
touch up the
The
murals
existing
where
murals,
they're brand new, remember that?
Yeah.
And so he worked with them to get that language expanded to facades.
Right.
Yeah, Mayor, just give credit where it's due. Ron really did work with Hubert a lot on that as well. So it was a joint effort.
Good old Ron and Hubert.
Yep.
You guys pretty tight, aren't you? Skin on an apple and all?
Rupert,
Sitting in a tree.
Yeah, that's right. We know what was going on. All right, if we like it, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve grant agreement with the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration for the New Mexico Appropriation Funds through Junior Bill 22 ZG9086 in the amount of $230,000.
second.
Final discussion?
Mayor, just before you vote, I have been in contact with Kendra. Kendra, are you guys good with this process we're looking at? Really excited for that. Okay.
Okay.
Counselor Hooker.
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin.
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
Counselor Eby.
Aye.
Thank you.
Awesome. And then item number 5 is presentation and discussion on E911 addressing project, otherwise known as a major can of worms. So we have a presentation. You can pull it up on your
Subtitled, The
computer,
Never-Ending Project.
or you can look at it. Thank you.
No, come on.
There you go.
Joe want to stay sitting back there?
Yeah, Joe was
Come
not
on, Joe, come
I said
on.
go, and it's like, is Joe gonna go?
He was making sure the scene was secured.
Yeah, that's right.
He had our back way back. Mr. Mayor, Council, Manager Dodge, we're here this afternoon to give you an update on the housing, or the readdressing of town that has caused a conundrum for everybody involved.
Conundrum?
Yep, you know what that is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I would go a little bit,
Further than that?
Mayor,
yeah.
Okay,
Like
I don't know, almost warfare.
Yeah, there you go. You're
Depending
getting
on who you're
closer.
talking to.
Some might say FUBAR.
Yeah.
A food bar, yeah. Yeah, so anyways, we had a committee together, and this had been, discussions had been going on for several years, actually. The readdressing on Highway 70 went off flawlessly, and so once that stretch went down, we thought, well, let's take off a bigger bite, and we bit off more than we could chew. So now there was many things that were not considered with the readdressing, especially the Midtown area, and many of the businesses that we have located in our jurisdiction that have many different licenses that, we didn't think about, all the way to changing bank accounts and business cards and literature that they've had out. So there's a letter did go out, and it gave a deadline on when the addresses needed to be changed, but that has since been rescinded. We are giving them more time, and we're pushing it down the road as far as we can. This is something that needs to be done for the 911 and the MSAG issues that we have. The 911, when we get a call, it'll show up on the screen, and although they give us an address of 123 Bluebird Street, there's times that we don't find that. And there has to be a process laid out to where everything is symmetrical, the numbers are in sequence. That way we, as first responders, can find the addresses more quickly. In my career personally, there's been times that I've passed the house several times, then I'm telling dispatch, hey, call them back and get a color of the vehicle that's in the driveway so that we can find the house. And, I've found houses that way many times, responding to many different emergencies. So it is something that has to happen, but we failed, and we need to give more education to the public and work with them so that way we can provide them the resources that they need to make this a smoother transition. It's still going to be a rough transition, but we can make it a smoother transition whenever we go through.
I know the question that we're all getting is, I understand residential. Not everybody's familiar with those streets, but Sutter at the Mitchell, pretty much everybody, linear street, it's easy to identify. Why can't we just do the residential and leave the commercial area alone? And you've dealt with, you talked to some of the merchants in town, and one in specific that has a lot of federal licenses.
Mm-hmm.
I know Councilor Hooker talked to him, I believe you talked to him.
Yes, sir.
I don't even begin to have an answer to how do we go about that without penalizing his business tremendously. And in some cases, the licenses are, when something's changed, it's mandatory, that they shut down for 30 to 45 days, if not more. So I know that was a question rolled up in another question. So what about, why do we have to do the Midtown, and why couldn't we just do the residentials?
The state statute doesn't differentiate between uses of properties, between commercial or residential. All they're looking at is that the numbers are sequential and match the data points that we're providing them.
Well, I imagine that the state statute, the SS, was a lot like what happened to us. They made a decision about how they're going to do it. So I think that if it's been done in other areas, we should be able to copy it and find out because, there's other shops that have similar issues with licensing. How did they get around it? And I know we're going to have to spend a lot of time with the businesses, but I've been looking over the NMSA 1978. You weren't even born, were you? Well, he was thought about, and he was just that little redheaded kid. But in 1978, this is when this went out. And so, these are the questions that we're getting, and I'm no Solomon, and I don't have a good answer for them as to why we can't do, besides saying, well, they don't differentiate, do they? Does it specifically deny that ability to do that? I haven't found it.
Or if there was, even if this is the end of the day, this has got to happen, is there any assistance to those businesses, you know, that's a open-ended question, I know, but is there any assistance out there that could be provided? Because here the government's coming in and saying, well, you're gonna do this. I don't care if it's gonna cost you $1 million or $50, but
There's one individual's an estimate just on the licenses is $38,000. And then in the other one, they're saying that the licenses couldn't even be good or the changeover for up to 3 years because some of these things have already been put in process to be ordered. And we're talking about guns and things like that. You know, the liquor licenses and the cannabis license, we know the people at the state that we can do maybe some work on those, but there's a few businesses I just don't even have an answer for, and we're gonna have to really work hard to figure out those.
Well, it seems like it shouldn't be the first time this has come up for those federal licenses, because this has also taken place across the country.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some precedent somewhere.
And I think there's some education on our part that we need to complete before we can start.
Mayor, Councilor, this is actually taking place other places already. We're way
Right.
behind.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is
I mean, and
it's already
that's-
happened, so how, and maybe it's just in education,
Yep.
is how do these other places across the country deal with that?
I think, are we talking about ATF? Is that the federal?
That's one of the
So
licenses, yeah.
We do have contacts with those people that we could try to, reach out to them and get more information, because we provide them, zoning certificates and stuff when they come out to do their.
Because they've told this one particular business owner that, you know, that's where he's getting his information. And he's said, and, you know, that he wants to comply, he wants to be there. He likes the new address that he was assigned, but just how do you do it? And it gets pretty mind-boggling to figure it out. So, you know, before we really move forward on those, I think we need to be able to address all those business concerns and get those. And I think I got you off of your presentation. I'm sorry, Al.
No, you're okay. This is just what we had presented to the public during our evening meeting a couple of weeks ago. But I think the main thing would be for people to make contact with us so we can help them through the process. And if they are experiencing costs related to this, that they do let us know so that we're informed and able to try to find some resources to alleviate that.
I would do one better, and I would talk to the young lady sitting in the audience with the RMA, that we reach out to a lot of the businesses, because we take a lot of these things for granted because it's your job every day that y'all do the things. These people's job is trying to make a living, and sometimes government gets in their way. And it's happened to me many times. That's, you know, like when they passed the fats, oil, and grease deal.
Yeah.
They didn't tell us nothing about it. I just got a letter said, you will. This has been years ago. And the only you will was I couldn't get it done because I couldn't jackhammer the sidewalk that was owned by the state. And it was prohibitive to the tune of about $50,000 to put in a sewer. But finally, we were able to talk to the people, make them in, and they let us put in slim lines that were above the ground. And so you see them all over town now. So there is a way. We just need to make sure that we're doing it. But nobody reached out to me. It cost me money, time, stress, and I don't think we need to be adding any more stress to those people. So I think we should reach out to them. And there's, you know, letters are good, emails are good, but she knows a lot of these businesses that she can start helping us make that segue into that. But then there's particular businesses that we know who we're talking about that I think we need to sit down and figure out, because I can't even tell you the amount of licenses and the acronyms and the three-letter agencies that he was going over. I couldn't even keep up with it. And so we're going to have to figure out what is the solution.
And banks too, I was thinking with the banks, the charters and all of that. So has any banks said anything to you? No.
Savings and loan lady was here.
No?
So the savings and loan
That's
security lady was
kind
here.
of a different deal.
We went through this on Highway 70 and Otero Federal didn't say anything, but I don't know if they're different since they're a credit union.
They are different. Okay.
Sam, let's continue with the presentation and then we'll go from there.
Okay, well, it's just a brief overview of issues throughout the community. We have evens on both sides of the street, street names that are phonetically the same, and it's just across the board. We started on Highway 70, that was smooth, and then we've gone on to Sudworth, and as you all know, it's not been smooth at all. But our goal is to get the main streets addressed so that the side streets, when it's time to identify where their driveway comes off of, because that is where your address is based off of, we need to make sure that the main roads are properly addressed and sequential. This is just a brief timeline. During your all's comprehensive planning meetings, it was identified as a goal and placed in the plan. In the community development tactical plan, it's been a goal for 4 years. And recently in 2020, we adopted our addressing ordinance. And this readdressing project started March 7th with official letters of new addresses sent on Highway 70, which lines up with Ruidoso Downs addresses going into the reservation line. So they're all sequential now on Highway 70.
Just on that, I think it started more than 4 years ago as a goal, right? Because it
We
was,
talked about it a long time ago, and then first rattle out of the box that I know of was Reese Drive over by the new, that's Magistrate Court, that Reese Drive?
yeah, I was just saying that, Mayor, because July 12th, I'll be here 4 years, and Bradford started.
That when it
this
was? And that one was hard to do, and I know we've done it in a few areas.
I think that's compounded the problem for the village is all of the Band-Aids that have been placed for decades.
Yeah.
When I worked 2 doors over off of Kansas City Road, we received 3 addresses in the 7 years I was there, and it was frustrating. So I can understand how some people are very upset about this process. Just moving on, processes that we go through internally. We do have an address committee that is composed of staff out of all of our departments on the technical side, and I think that's where we failed because a lot of us have local government knowledge, not business knowledge. And so technically we had it correct as far as mapping and getting our MSAG layers uploaded to the state and making sure that GIS had proper data, but we didn't think about it on the impact to the businesses.
Yeah, it's like us coming in and putting a totally unrealistic number on your budget, Sam, but we still require you to do all these other things, and it's just, how do you do it? And it can't, sometimes it can't be done. That's why I'm saying there has to be examples of this throughout this, since this has been going on since 1978, that they've been able to work through all these things. But I think it's our duty to find out how to get that information and give it to these people.
Yes.
Because it's more than business cards or, you know, that kind of stuff. It's, and those people, you know, with the time, they can use up the old ones. That's not the issue. The folks I'm talking to they understand why, in theory, that we have to do it, but it's just how do we get it attainable? Because I'm not going to be for putting anybody out of business or a big strain on their livelihood or any of that stuff. So I know there's got to be a way. So, but, you know, we've all been used to dealing with FEMA, you know, and how long that's taken to get anywhere. And I just wonder if, you know, we need to get started on this real quick. Anyway, that's enough of my yammering. Would you like to yammer?
No, sir, I'm good, thanks.
And I think a lot of concerns that we're getting, the hard part on our end would be if the state decided to withhold funding.
Well, then we would fight them in court. I mean, I'm not going to, those kind of excuses, if they're going to give a mandate, then they're going to have to show us how they do it. I mean, just the simple fact that we throw that out there, because I've asked around and that's never even been brought up anywhere yet. So before we start, you know, saying because we're getting pressure, it's our duty to make sure that we support our businesses, the people that we work for. And we go over this all the time and we're working for them. So you can still say I'm a little raw over the way it got started. So I just think that we need to make dang sure that we've reached out to them, find all the situations that we can and get them answers. Because when's the last time you called the state and tried to get anything on your alcohol gaming license? They don't even go into the office.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm saying, is that we have to have that with the connections that we have as is the village, we can set that up to where, we can maybe submit all their names to get all those licenses put through. And
Well,
then,
Mayor, just talking about what you're saying, maybe we need to talk or send out a survey to every single business, because we don't know about businesses either.
right, well, and that's.
Just like with this gentleman with all the licenses, we have no clue how many licenses he has or what challenges he has.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's going to be more than just us expecting them to reach out to us. We need to go talk to them, because some of these folks, believe it or not, they still don't even know what we're talking about. I saw one of them in HR, she said, I need to talk to you. And I said, oh, about your address? She said, what address? What do you mean? And then I foolishly opened my mouth, But she was talking to me about something totally different. She goes, well, I haven't even said it, because a lot of them don't read the mail all the time, and they hadn't heard about it. But they're all going to pretty soon. But we just need to really be engaged with them, be sincere and empathetic that, but every one of them doesn't want to do it, but most all of them understand that it needs to be done. If the reasoning is sound.
Plus, we just need to let them know how important this is, because you know how it is, Mayor, people will procrastinate.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care, you give them 30 days, you give them 120 days, they'll wait until 30 days of the 120 days.
Yeah, and you just go talk to Judge Potter, he's seeing people on the forestry ordinances, all that stuff that he's constantly having to do them, and he's cut them off, and then that's when they all of a sudden miraculously get it thinned. We understand that, but we're not at that stage with this yet.
Sure.
We need to get that information and then have a real target date. We need to set down, we almost need a master plan designed for this process. I don't know, more of a strategic plan?
We can get a consultant to hire it, and maybe there is a way to
Because-
say, we can build this addressing and leave this business district alone.
Because I don't expect y'all,
If that's the process you guys want, Mayor, we can,
I don't expect y'all to know everything about it. That's one of these things that we have honestly talked about this many times over the years that I've been active. Rifles talked about it, we've all talked about it. But, all the variables that we're throwing at you, I don't expect you to know how to do them. But maybe it's worth reaching out to find somebody that is a specialist in this. I don't know, I'd like to see if we can make some inquiries into that direction to say, is there a company, is there someone that helps us? State, who do you recommend? Who can help us do this?
and planners are the ones that usually do that, Mayor. They'll come in and give us a recommendation. The big struggle that makes this community different, I've said it time and time again, is it's not built off block and square.
No.
So it creates challenges. So maybe we need somebody from a planner's perspective to take a look at it, and then we set those criterias on how they're gonna engage the different businesses and help assess that and what process can they go through. And maybe it's like you say, we kick it back to, the E911 committee, which Ron sits on now, and says, this mandate, you need to take these things into consideration. So it's an unfunded mandate coming down from the state. Well, maybe they didn't put some money towards that and figure out how to get it done.
But if they could have that shortcut to the federal licenses and, help us bundle all that stuff, the state, where we could just send all the liquor licenses from Ron's office up there, they do the transfer. Because I know when we got our license, you had to post everything. And then when we moved out and the license went in the guy's name, he had to wait because it was a new name on the license. I can't remember if it's 30 or 60 or 90 days. So, I just want to know all those things. But, so, do we have planners? I know I got one bugging me. Do you want to, are y'all interested in that?
Well, I think it's important to go ahead and get this taken care of, but done in a fashion, because I, in my mind, I don't know how long this has been going on, but it seems like we've been talking about this for about 10 years. And it's going on, and I hear some people have had multiple addresses, and it's like it shouldn't be that, to me, that difficult that you look it up and it's like, well, this should be the address. Well, why is it changing 4, 5, 6 times? To do once is a pain in the neck, but you got to go through it and you got to do it. I'm glad to hear that there's an extension of time, Because immediately for me, the simple things were like magazine subscriptions. Those take 4 to 6 weeks to get address changes. But what I suggested to somebody is, go ahead and once they give you the new address, put in a change of address with the post office, going back to your old address to the new address, and then it should hopefully get to you. But we need to handle this and all these other things that you're bringing up. I didn't even think about federal licensing and things like that, state licensing.
Well, and then,
We've got connections
will
to.
we be duplicating, like say, Hooker's at 204 and he's gonna be 180, whatever, and so they move it back and I'm 180 now, and then I'm gonna be 160. So is that actually gonna happen where the same number will be used as somebody else will have that number?
Potential.
See, that's some of the concerns that one of these individuals has, is that some of this stuff is just shipped. And with his licenses and all this stuff, then it would put him in a legal quandary. And so those are a lot of little things that, I never even fathomed. And so, but if we could maybe reach out to a consultant just to ask them a question, see if, what it would cost to have somebody, because I believe that working through it would be a lot less stress once we get the answers and know what we should know.
I'll tell you, Mayor, the way that other communities handled it is just like Ruidoso Downs did. They go through and they do the whole thing all at once. But, we can reach out, find a consultant that can help us develop the plan. But that's how it's been handled before.
Yeah, I know the Downs, I didn't even get a notice until, my stuff wasn't showing up anymore.
Yeah, I lived in Santa Rosa when they implemented this. And a lot of this, I know it goes back to the 1978, that was when it was established. There's been several amendments since then.
Oh, yeah.
When the big issue started coming into play and the big push is when they went to the automated dispatch. And, like in the cell phones. And that's what was causing a big problem. If you called in and you're being pinged, it hit a radio tower, it was difficult to determine where you're at.
Right.
So when they started going to the automated dispatch, and that's when they started really making a push to try to get communities to comply with the 79 rule. But that wasn't, that didn't start occurring, I would say, if I remember correctly, Ron, you probably went through it as well, but it was like closer to 2004, 2006, when this became a big issue.
That is correct, yes.
And that's when they started going to consolidated dispatches, and they started changing a lot of the dispatch processes. But at that time, I was in Santa Rosa, and they went through, and they just did a complete readdressing. And I was living at 102 8th Street, and then all of a sudden, I was at 102 South 8th Street, and it's just, that's how they went across. Some people were on I-40 and had a Route 66 address, and then or Will Rogers Drive, and it changed to old Route 66. There's just big changes like that happen in our business district. And then years later, I went to Las Vegas, the same thing. And it does create problems. I never ran into this one type of business that has so many federal licenses, but, I can totally understand. But there again, there may be some other business out there that we have no idea what type of regulations or licensing or that they have to go through, or, there's a lot of unknowns out there. So.
So Las Vegas did it all. I mean, that's a fairly good-sized community, and they didn't have any of these gun shops or?
They're more set up on Block and Square.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Then they got the other railroad district that came in at an angle, so it kind of offset, but it's still Block and Square. And then the west side of Las Vegas was set off, off the laws of the Indies, where they have a plaza, and then they built the streets around it in accordance with riparian. So it's a lot more like this on the west side. But they had, huge problems, but it was done all at once. So,
Just say, if we're gonna be looking for a consultant to help us, we need to find a consultant who's gone through this, not somebody we're gonna pay to become educated.
To learn.
Yeah.
and a similar type of community on how they would approach it.
Exactly.
Because this community, the mountain's going to dictate how we develop and.
Like
Well, I just think we need to give these guys, we're asking them to do something that we've never done before. And rather than doing like what we've been doing I would like to see us have a whole plan, like we're doing our water rate study, like we've done on leak detection, like we've done all these other things, that we have somebody that has done it, been through it, experienced, that we look at the whole community.
I think we need a planner, a land planner. would
And
be
that
able to
way,
do
we
that.
rip the Band-Aid off once.
Yeah.
And I'll be on vacation for those 2 weeks. Well, you know Susan will be. She's on
Mayor, you know,
permanent
we've
vacation.
always talked about community engagement, so it's an
Well,
excellent.
yeah.
That would be it, huh?
But Mayor, you know, if you want us to halt this process, we can even further, and we can reassess it. We can put out an RFP for a planner. We could try to find a planner that has approached this in a similar type of community and come up with a strategy and then think it out, you know, methodically.
I think we should do that.
Would y'all have an objection to it?
No.
None?
There's no sense in wasting their time.
Well, we're asking them to do something that
They've helped
is,
other communities.
that we just have it off of ordinance.
Yeah.
And then we're working through it, but all the back stories, all the surrounding data that goes with some businesses and others have very minimal,
Yeah,
you know, but to help them figure out how to do that.
yeah.
It's all the unintended consequences.
Mayor Crawford, members of the council, I also went through a rule addressing change through the enhanced 911, and we hired a consultant that came in. The state of New Mexico had a list of consultants that you could procure with to be able to do the project, so. And we'll reach out and check on all that.
So the state's telling you to do something, but, oh, here's somebody you can go pay to figure out how to do
Well,
it.
that's the way these engineers do these, you know, they serve as a representative or they serve in one of these other deals and then they make a new law and then they're no longer there, but they're with an engineering firm that can solve your problem. We see that all the time.
Or a lawyer that will help you with your cannabis business.
Yes, yes, exactly. Okay, so,
I know we've been going through this. Are there other areas of the town that still have yet to be addressed?
The whole town.
The whole town. It's only the second street.
Okay, because I know we've done some, but, so.
well, no, we backed off, I think, off of Reese and all those others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we ran into a stump there, I can't remember.
Reese is a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, from the Boys and Girls Club is 134, and then you go around the corner and the first house you hit, I think, is 136. And you gotta drive, you know, the other side of the bridge to hit the first house, and it's like crazy.
But I mean, we get asked questions, it should be simple for me to answer, but I don't know. Does the county then have to change all the addresses, and then does it go to the deeds, and I don't know if you know any realtors, they don't do anything for free. So how do they do all that?
Deed is not,
It's by legal description.
yeah, it's legal description, it's not by address.
Flat.
Yeah. If you're trying to look it up by address, you're gonna have a difficult time.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any change in that.
Not that I can imagine.
We do provide that information to them though, but,
Yeah.
But I favor the consultant, and the first thing to do, Sam, is to notify the businesses that, hey, we put the brakes on this, we're just, what we
Mayor,
discussed.
Council, what we'll do is we'll prepare, because this is an ordinance, we'll prepare a resolution and get it to the next council meeting so that, you know, staff has clear direction, and then we'll have in their
Right.
recommendations on notifying the public and things of that
Yeah.
nature.
And, you know, still, once we get a consultant, you know, I think the more information, it's like a lawyer, the more you get your lawyer, the faster these things go, so we'll see.
Yeah, if that works for you, Counselor, works
Yes,
for you all.
Okay.
Take that kind of, get an action on the next agenda.
Yep.
I don't mind changing my house address if that means I can get the post office to deliver mail there.
that would be ideal.
Counselor Hooker, have you noticed the addresses when you drive up White Mountain Meadows?
Like, what in the world?
Well, in my street, one side says Meadowwood, the other side says Meadowwood Drive or something, so.
Well, and we've
And
got,
it's a little street. It's,
and what's the other one that we've got in town? Is it Meacham that's misspelled two different places?
probably.
Probably.
And there's several of them in here that we have spellings different. So I get it, I just don't have a good answer. And I don't think y'all have enough information that will prepare you to make it successful in the change.
Yeah.
You're driving up my street, and it's 109 on one side and 117 on the other. And then you go further up, and then I'm like at 113, and I'm at the end. And my neighbor's 113 also.
Well, and I never noticed this, but now then everywhere I go, I look at addresses.
Yep.
And even on my street, it's wacky.
Texas Street is so bad.
Well, Texas used to be, that was what was really crazy, and we're right there.
That's a short street.
Huh? And it's not even that long, but it used to be in east and west or north and south or whatever it was.
Wait until you get into the Upper Canyon, because there's one street up there that it starts out at 100 block, 200 block, and then it goes back to the 100 block, so doesn't make.
That's
no
where that
sense.
north and south stuff,
Yep.
or whatever
So-
comes in.
And that's an issue because there isn't good cell signal and we have a lot of tourists in there and.
Just for emergency services, not for utilities, I mean, you get somebody at 109 South Loop, and another one at, 109 Loop, you go shut their meter off, or they block, we run into that, in the middle of the night in the winter.
Sure.
Midtown's the worst. I don't know how many times I've been in the middle of the winter trying to shut off the meter because the business is flooding, and they don't even know their address, it's not local.
Well, and your meter's different than sometimes your street address.
Meter for Rio,
Yeah.
street addresses on Southern.
Well, and that was the thing, if y'all remember, when we were doing the meters, we were asking our people to go knock on the door or find out how it related. And I bet we didn't do all those
There was a lot of the GPS that was put into the GPS.
at that time.
Well, on my way home, I go past the intersection of High Loop and High Loop.
Nice.
Well, they got another shot at it. Aren't they gonna be changing the meters out, or at least the sending?
They'll be updating them.
Started?
Yep, they've got a little over, I think, 1,100 already.
Anything else?
Mayor, council, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
We appreciate y'all working on that. I know it's a pain in the rear. And y'all don't deserve all the guff you're getting, but I just think that y'all were given a task that is just not attainable until we figure out how to get all the answers. All right. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add? Okay, thank you very much for attending, and this meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Mayor.
Well, I hear you're gonna be in the Smoky Bear Parade there, Mayor. You're on the radio.
Who, me?
Yeah, you said, I didn't even know about that parade, but you can go ride in it.